take forward for this session. Over to you, Pawanji.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Sumit ji, Karan ji, and Ankit ji. First of all, thank you for arranging this session for the viewers and inviting me for the same. So, as discussed by Punit sir, that this real estate sector and the works contract industry is really has been complicated in the GST. So, if every time and every query when we discussed internally on these issues, every time we found a new thing. Even if I take the example of development, right? Yesterday we are doing a unique एग्रीमेंट का असेसमेंट कर रहे थे, तो उसमें एक अलग अलग बातें निकल के आती है. So it's really complicated and very not say tax optimized structure नहीं है. But I think because my learned another speaker has already covered the real estate sector yesterday, and also सुमित जी कवर हो गया ना वो?
पवन जी, कल जो कवर हुआ रियल एस्टेट में जॉइंट डेवलपमेंट एग्रीमेंट, so that part has been covered very well.
उसमें सेल ऑफ लैंड भी कवर हो गया और सेल ऑफ लैंड
जी
हाँ. So therefore I will not cover those topics and also today Puneet ji has briefed out all these issues which are involved in the real estate sector, and yesterday my learned friend has already covered those topics. So now I am moving to the works contract industry, which is one of the part of this real estate sector also, and also the part of the infrastructure industry. So this works contract are for those two specific industries. So आप sharing, हाँ yes, sharing is allowed. So सुमित जी PPT दिख रही है?
Yes पवन जी, clear.
Okay, ठीक है. So आज जो हम टॉपिक कवर करेंगे उसके अंदर we will cover the definition of works contract and उसके से रिलेटेड जो पॉइंट्स हैं, लाइक व्हाट आर द इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टीज, केस स्टडीज. बेसिकली हम इसमें एग्जांपल्स के थ्रू भी समझने की कोशिश करेंगे कि इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी किस किस सिनेरियो में होगी, किस किस सिनेरियो में नहीं हो सकती है. वर्क्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के अंदर जनरली कुछ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स के अंदर कॉन्ट्रैक्टीज एफओसी मटेरियल इशू करते हैं, तो उसका क्या ट्रीटमेंट है जीएसटी के अंदर. इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट रिलेटेड इशू रिलेटेड टू वर्क्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट क्या है, और जो टेलीकम्युनिकेशन टावर पे एक इशू है उसके ऊपर क्या है. देन वी विल मूव टू द रेट ऑफ टैक्स. वी विल नॉट डिस्कस द टैक्स रेट एंट्रीज, बट कुछ टैक्स रेट एंट्रीज की स्पेसिफिक फीचर्स जो है इसके अंदर वो क्या है वो डिस्कस करेंगे आज हम. फिर देन वी विल डिस्कस कि what are the issue involved in this sector in relation to the inverted duty structure and their refund. But then there are some issues which are related to the claims which are received for the work done prior to 1st July 2017, but today we are receiving the arbitration award. उस केस में क्या होगा. And the another issue which is twofold issue where the works contractor is required to take registration, and what are the problems associated with the registration like ITC. So these are the topics which we will cover. So let's start with the definition of the works contract. As compared to the previous regime of VAT and service tax, the scope of the works contract is only restricted to immovable property only. So as they have defined the works contract, a contract for building, construction, fabrication, completion, installation, fitting out, improvement, modification, repair, maintenance, renovation, alteration to any immovable property, wherein the transfer of property in goods, whether as goods or in some other form, is involved in the execution of such contract. So if we look this definition, so there are three main features which are in this definition. First of all, this definition is the means clause. So what we mean by means clause, this definition is an exhaustive definition, and so therefore only and only constructions related to immovable property is only included in this. So in this case movable property के अंदर जो movable property से related contract होंगे वो works contract की definition में नहीं आएंगे. तो इसीलिए it is important to look at here कि इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी की डेफिनेशन का मतलब what we mean by immovable property under the GST. Third one, it requires a transfer of property in goods along with the specific services. So until unless there is a transfer of property in goods, it will not be considered as works contract. So there is some service as well as it involves the transfer of property in goods. So it would be considered as works contract. Otherwise, it will be a pure service. Now, second aspect, in the Gannon Dunkery 1 judgment, the Honorable Supreme Court has held that these type of composite contracts are service. Then the government has bring the constitutional amendment by bringing the definition of deemed supply, deemed sale to cover to bring it into the ambit of VAT also. So पहले क्या झगड़ा हुआ करता था और पहले भी वर्क्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के अंदर जो मेजर इश्यूज रहते थे वो रहते थे कि what are the elements of the material involved in this, what are the volume involved of service, बिकॉज वहां पर डिफरेंट शेड्यूल थे. बट यहाँ पर अब जीएसटी में वो प्रॉब्लम नहीं है कि कौन सी गवर्नमेंट को हमें टैक्स देना है, सेंट्रल को देना है बट स्टेट को देना है. बट स्टिल to bring the further clarification and to ease the compliances, the government has classified it as service. So they said that the composite supply of works contract as defined in section 2119 will be treated as service. Why they have done so? It is required because there are a lot of things which are separately for goods and separately for service. Like if we talk about the time of supply, it is different for goods and service. If we talk about the rate of tax, we have to separately refer the notification for rates. If we talk about the place of supply, if we talk about when the invoice is required to be raised, and there are many compliances which are separate for services and goods. So therefore, here to bring out the clarity, government has said that okay, it will be treated as supply of service. Now, as we discussed that in the definition of works contract, only immovable property is included and not the movable. Now, what we mean by immovable property? The term immovable property is not defined under the GST. It was also not defined under the service tax regime. So, General Clauses Act, it states that wherever the specific law does not define any act, and it is not contravened to the specific act, then the definition provided in the General Clauses Act shall be applicable to the central acts. Similarly, there are General Clauses Act of the states also. So the definition of immovable property provided in the General Clauses Act, which says immovable property shall include land, benefit arise out of land, and things attached to the earth and permanently fastened to anything attached to the earth. So it says that land is a immovable property. Further, separately, there are a lot of rights which are attached to the earth. If I give the example, the leasing is one of the right which is attached to the land. So if you give only the land on lease, it is a right which is attached with the land. But in the service tax regime and the GST regime also, they have separately covered the renting part. Now, yesterday my friend also discussed about, and Puniji also discussed about, the development rights. So development right is not the land, but it's a right which is arising of the land. So therefore, GST department has framed a view that since we have only excluded sale of land and not the benefit which is arising out of the land, or per se we are not excluding the immovable property, therefore the development rights being a benefit arising out of the land is an immovable property, but is not excluded from the definition of the service. So therefore development rights were subject to GST. So similarly, I am giving this example here because to distinguish between to differentiate that at one place they are treating it land and the benefit which is arising out of the land, and the things attached to the earth means or permanently fastened to the earth, like building. We construct a building over a land. So once we construct a building over a land, it is permanently fastened to that and attached to the earth. So therefore it is considered as immovable property. Similarly, the definition provided in the Transfer of Property Act is immovable property does not include standing timber, growing crops and grass. So it is exclusive, matlab negative definition. So again, therefore we are required to refer the term immovable property from General Causes Act. Now, since it is a crucial factor that what it is, whether it is a immovable property or not, there are many disputes which arose in the previous tax regime, especially in excise also. In excise, the goods which are marketable and which are movable were subject to excise duty. So therefore, at many times, a question came before the courts that whether the particular transaction or whether the particular supply is an immovable property or is a movable property. So like if we talk about this judgment of Municipal Corporation of Greater Bombay and Indian Oil Corporation, in this case, the Municipal Corporation has tried to impose the taxes on the tanks, which are oil tanks, very big in size. So they tried to impose the tax on that. The question came before the court whether these are the immovable property or whether it is a movable property. So the court has laid down the two major principles through which we can determine that whether it is a movable or it is immovable. The court said that the degree or the mode of annexation. What did they mean by degree or mode of annexation? That let's say there is a tank and आपको टैंक को अगर मूवेबल बोलना है तो उसको मूव करने के लिए हमें उसको ब्रेक करना पड़ेगा क्या, और अगर ब्रेक करना पड़ेगा whether that break of a tank is for ease of transportation और उसको ब्रेक करने से उसका मेजर फीचर जो है वो अब यूजेबल नहीं रहेगा. So and the another thing which they had said, the object of annexation, what the intent, what the object of the party to annex it with the land, whether it is for whether this is just only for a base or it is a intention or it is object to make it permanently fastened to the earth and not to move anywhere. And in this case, in these two tests, the court said that later is the court said of the two tests, later is more important. Yani ke intention, object of annexation is more important. Like if we give the example that whether fixing of air condition, what is the intent of the party? Let's say if we are talking about the split AC and we are fixing on a wall, whether we have intent to move it somewhere else and temporarily affixing on a wall, or we have intent to permanent affix it. So like if we give the example of a tenant, so tenant have ever intent to fix it temporarily on a wall of his rented house. But if we talk about owner, again it may be a point of dispute, but since he never have an intent to remove it from the wall, so someone can say that it's an immovable property. Similarly, in another judgments, like in Sirpur paper mills, the court said that just a plant and machinery are fixed in earth for better functioning, it does not automatically become an immovable property. So इस केस में कोर्ट ने ये बोला था कि आपने जो मशीनरी है, although the machinery is fixed and cannot be removed by without dismantling, but machine is fixed to the structure and those are fitted by nut and bolts so that it remain wobble free. So therefore court said just by affixing those machinery and fitting it by nut and bolts so that it will be remain wobble free doesn't make it as an immovable property. So here again the court has tested the annexation की डिग्री इसके ऊपर कोर्ट ने इस पे annexation and intent के ऊपर कोर्ट्स ने इसके ऊपर deliberation दिया. And again there are few more judgments where the Supreme Court or the High Courts have held that what are the intention of the parties is a determinative factor to determine whether it is an immovable property or it is a movable property. Like in solid and correct engineering works, the Honorable Supreme Court has examined that whether the bitumen plants which are installed by the contractor to make the roads, So after the completion of the project, all the project contractors remove those bitumen manufacturing plants from the site. So the question came before the court whether it is a movable or immovable. So the court has tested it with the intent, that the intent of the contractor not to fix it permanently at one place. It is only for the temporary and for the purpose of only contract. So it is not a immovable property, it is a movable property. So let's understand with a few examples, with a few case studies. So if we talk about the centralized air condition, the centralized air condition are never, it may be tenant के case में different हो सकता है, and again it depend on the facts to facts cases, but like in a mall, in a hospitals, in a offices where the centralized AC have been put into the structure, so no one have an intent to remove it, and it every time the intent of putting the centralized AC is to put it and fasten it permanently with the immovable properties building. So therefore it will be considered as immovable property. So if you give a contract for installation for commissioning of a centralized AC, it will fall within the definition of works contract under the GST. Now again, if we talk about the split AC, then split AC, again you have to put the intention test, whether we have intent. So like in our owned houses, we have never intend to remove it every time from one place to another place until unless it become obsolete. But in case of tenant who came in the house only for 1 or 2 years, he always have an intent to put it at one place and then remove it along once he will leave that house. So therefore it will depend on the intention and facts to facts. Now like wiring, if we give the contract for wiring, electric wiring, which are done in the building. So if you are doing a wiring work in a newly constructed building, so there is never intent of any party to remove those wires, and it can never be removed as is. So therefore the wiring contract will fall within the definition of works contract, as electric fitting is a immovable, will fall within the definition of immovable property. Now similarly, if we talk about the doors and windows, so what, let's say I want to have a door or specialized window in my house. I have given a contract to make a window and fit it at my house. Whether this contract is an immovable property, contract for immovable property or not, yes, it is an immovable property, because my intent is never to remove those doors and windows, first thing. Secondly, these are specially because my window size, my door size is a specific size. So it is not like the case कि okay, मैं अपना यहाँ से remove कर दूं और कहीं और ले जाकर लगा दूं, ऐसा भी नहीं हो सकता. Thirdly, मेरी intent is always to make it fix at some one place. So therefore, making the doors and windows and affixing at my one place will fall within the definition of immovable property. But yes, recently there is an advanced ruling. Although there is a peculiar fact in that case, what the advanced ruling has observed that those offices are for like वो जो customized offices मिलते हैं कि आपको per seats के हिसाब से charges लेते हैं, per seat के हिसाब से, sharing offices, they call sharing offices. So what they do, वहां पर जो doors and windows and जो cabins हैं, वो as per the requirement of the clients shift करते रहते हैं. वो लेट्स से किसी क्लाइंट को बड़ा कैबिन चाहिए तो उसका बड़ा सराउंडिंग बना के डोर और विंडोज उसी के हिसाब से बनाते हैं, और अगर किसी को छोटा चाहिए या किसी और प्लेस पे चाहिए तो वो मूव करते रहते हैं. सो कंसीडरिंग द फैक्ट्स एंड सिचुएशन, द एडवांस रूलिंग अथॉरिटी हैज हेल्ड दैट नो, इट इज अ मूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी. सो अगेन एज आई सेड that it all depends on the facts and intention of the parties. And later on we also come to the fact that it also depends on the contract between the parties, as said and as observed by the courts, that the intent of the parties always came from the contracts, and contract is called to be a living document. It speaks living, the contract speaks what the intention of the parties. So therefore, it is crucial to draft the agreements, to draft the contract very crucially before doing the transaction. So here we understood that what we mean by immovable property. So what if it is a movable property? Why there is a difference? So in the earliest regime, there is no difference in a works contract definition. But अगर आज आपका movable property है और आप गुड्स भी सप्लाई कर रहे हैं और सर्विस भी सप्लाई कर रहे हैं, सो अगेन आपको दो टेस्ट से गुजरना होगा, एक कॉम्पोजिट सप्लाई का कॉन्सेप्ट और एक मिक्स सप्लाई का कॉन्सेप्ट. सो अगर आपकी सेपरेट कंसिडरेशन है बट दोनों एक दूसरे से रिलेटेड नहीं है तो आपकी कॉम्पोजिट में नहीं आएगी. बट अगर इफ इट इज in conjunction with each other in respect of movable, then it will fall within the concept of composite supply, and you have to identify the principal supply. And once you identify the principal supply in case of movable, you have to apply the tax structure according to the principal supply. And if you have a single price and you are supply in the single contract, it would fall within the definition of within the concept of mixed supply. So therefore, tax is required to be paid accordingly in case of movable. Now come to the valuation part. First thing is very clear that tax is payable on the value which is defined under section 15, and section 15(1) says that tax is payable on the transaction value, that is the price actually paid or payable. Here there is no doubt at all. Now, what about the free of cost material supplied by the contractee? So, in the Bhayana Builders, recently the Supreme Court has held that if the FOC material supplied by the contractee, then it should not be included in the value gross amount charged by the contractor. But there are other judgments which says that if those are the responsibility and those are the part of the contract of the contractor, that it has to be included in the, it has to be supplied by the contractor, but later on it is agreed that कि कॉन्ट्रैक्टी उसको सप्लाई कर रहा है एंड वो उसकी जो भी कंसिडरेशन डिसाइड हुई है उसमें से माइनस करके वो दे देगा. देन इन द केस ऑफ NM Goyal, सुप्रीम कोर्ट हैज हेल्ड दैट नो, देयर इज अ टू सप्लाई, वन इज फ्रॉम द कॉन्ट्रैक्टी टू कॉन्ट्रैक्टर, say steel and cement, and there is a another supply total in the form of works contract from the contractor to contractee. So similarly, under the section 15(2), there is one inclusion in the CGST Act that where any amount that the supplier is liable to pay in relation to such supply, but which has been incurred by the recipient of the supply and not included in the price actually paid or payable for the goods or services or both. So let's understand it with example. So एक स्टील कंस्ट्रक्शन लिमिटेड कंपनी को कॉन्ट्रैक्ट मिला, ए लिमिटेड को कॉन्ट्रैक्ट दिया, एंड दे हैव एग्रीड दैट ओके we will do it for rupees 10 crores. And what happened that the contractee has supplied the cement to the A Limited, who is the contractor, of rupees 2 crore. So as per the 15(2), that just case study 1 के अंदर क्या है कि कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के अंदर ही लिखा हुआ है कि आपका कॉन्ट्रैक्ट वैल्यू है 10 करोड़ एंड जो स्टील है वो कॉन्ट्रैक्टी ही देगा. दैट इज क्लियरली मेंशन्ड इन द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट इटसेल्फ. सो देयरफॉर द वैल्यू ऑफ द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, द वैल्यू ऑफ द सप्लाई फ्रॉम द कॉन्ट्रैक्टर ए लिमिटेड शैल रिमेन द वैल्यू व्हिच इज एग्रीड, दैट इज 10 करोड़. नाउ लेट अस इन एग्जांपल 2, ए लिमिटेड को कॉन्ट्रैक्ट मिला स्टील लिमिटेड से विथ ऑफ रुपीज 11 करोड़, or the terms of the contract that all material has to be supplied or arranged by the A Limited for the contract. But later on it is agreed that okay, the A Limited had said that the contractee, in this case steel construction, to arrange the steel of worth rupees 1.2 crore and pay balance amount of 9.8 crore. So in this case, as per section 15(2) and as per the Supreme Court judgment in the case of NM Goyal, the contract value will be 9.8 crores, which is to be paid, and plus 1.2 crore, which is value of the material supplied by the contractee, but it is a responsibility of the supplier to bring into the contract. So therefore here the contract value will remain 11 crore, and there is one supply of rupees 1.2 crore from the contractee to the contractor. So in this case there are two supplies. One is 11 crore, that is sum total of 9.8 and 1.2 material supplied by the contractee, and one supply from contractee to the contractor of rupees 1.2 crore. Up, I want to share one more example which I have recently faced during the preparation of a case. What happened in that case, that Punjab government have a practice to do the contracts from the day one. They have an intent, like in the case one, from the day one they have an intent that steel and cement we will provide, remaining part, remaining material and the service has to be done by the contractor. But as a practice, what they do in the contract, they mention the whole value, including the value of the material which has to be supplied by the Punjab government. So what they do the practice, let's say उसमें उन्होंने बोला है कि आप इस कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के अंदर 3 करोड़ का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है और 1 करोड़ का हम स्टील एंड सीमेंट देंगे. तो उन्होंने वैल्यू डिफाइन कर दी कि हम जितना स्टील एंड सीमेंट देंगे उसकी वैल्यू 1 करोड़ है और आप जितना काम करोगे उसकी वैल्यू 3 करोड़ है. बट वो करते क्या थे, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में लिख देते कॉन्ट्रैक्ट का अमाउंट है 4 करोड़ और जिसमें से 1 करोड़ माइनस करके मिलेगा. सो अगर इसमें देखें तो एक कंफ्यूजन है. बेसिकली ये केस वन ही है जहां पर डे वन से डिसाइडेड है कि मुझे 3 करोड़ की सप्लाई करनी है और 1 करोड़ का एफओसी आना है. बट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट इस तरीके से स्ट्रक्चर्ड था कि वहां पर इट इज नाउ डिफिकल्ट टू आर्ग्यू अ केस फ्रॉम द contract that no the liability to supply material of rupees 1 crore is of the contractee. So that's why I'm again and again saying, I will repeat at every stage, that the contract creation is a very crucial in this case, because FOC, if it is a FOC and the responsibility of the contractee, the recipient, then it will not be added. But if it is the responsibility of the supplier being a contractor, but later on supplied by the contractee, then it has to be included in the contract value. Now come to the input tax credit. What is the issue involved in this case? There are two exclusions in the section 17.5. As everyone know, I'm not just repeating for convenience of all, that section 16 allows the credit blanketly to expenditure which is incurred to the input tax which is incurred for the business in course or furtherance of business. And there are certain exclusions. Say we called it at a block list or negative credit, which is given in the section 17.5. In that there is a two exclusion. First is works contract service when supplied for construction of an immovable property other than plant and machinery, except where it is an input service further to supply of works contract. Another one is goods or services or both received by a taxable person for construction of an immovable property on his own account, including when such goods or services or both are used in the course or furtherance of business. So इसमें प्रॉब्लम क्या आता है कि गवर्नमेंट ने क्रेडिट रिस्ट्रिक्ट कर दिया. At a one stage, this GST has been introduced to bring the seamless flow of credit. Secondly, to remove the cascading effect. But they have restricted this credit. Like, I am a chartered accountant. I want to construct my office. So I am not eligible for the credit under section 17.5D, because it is for my own account. And if I am giving a contract for constructing a building, which is not for further works contract by me, then they have restricted a credit. I will discuss two issues involved in this. First of all, a case example लेते हैं कि a builder has constructed a building for renting purpose, not for selling, but for renting purpose. So जब renting purpose के लिए लेते हैं, तो what the department treated to be a for own account, because it is not for any other purpose, it is for my own account and it is for giving on rent only. So here the department is of the view that credit shall not be allowed. But in a Safari Retreats Private Limited, the Honorable Odisha High Court has read down this section 17.5D and said that if my intent to receive this, to get construct this building for further leasing purpose, on which GST has to be discharged by the recipient, then he can avail the credit. So what distinction have they created? That was a commercial building. They will give it on lease and they will pay GST on it. So they said that the person is eligible to avail the credit and it is not restricted under section 17.5D. This judgment is now pending before the Honorable Supreme Court, but there is no stay on the judgment. So what should be our strategy as on date in respect to the immovable properties which I get constructed for renting purpose? So there are two methods which I can adopt. First of all, since there is no Supreme Court stay on this judgment, and Odisha High Court has already held that the person who is getting construct for leasing purpose and paying GST shall be allowed the credit. So I can easily claim the credit and I can utilize that. But if I want to go with a conservative view that, okay, I don't want to go into any dispute, I don't want to go into any interest liability, then what I can do, I can avail that credit, keep it as is, because in a steel commercial judgment, the Patna High Court has said that if you not utilize the credit, then no interest is payable. And the amendment which is okay, very long term से pending है, पिछले साल amendment आ गया था, इस बार GST Council ने भी उसको retrospectively amend करने के लिए बोला section 50 को, but still there is no amendment. But since there is a judgment as well as the intention of the government and council is clear that they are going to bring a retrospective judgment, that where the credit is not utilized and remain in the books as is, or not say books in the electronic credit ledger as is, then no interest is payable. So what we can do in this case, we can take the credit and keep it as is, so that there is no lapse of credit due to the time limitation. So there are many developers and builders come to us who has already lost their credit of 17-18 because there is no time limit. Now there is no time limit to avail that credit. So it is good to avail the credit, and if you want to play safe, then don't utilize that credit. And if you can't wait the judgment of the Supreme Court, and because there is no stay at all, so today you can avail it, and tomorrow if there is a against judgment of the Supreme Court, then you can pay it, reverse it with the interest. Now the second issue what I'm going to discuss is that in the first limb, in the C call, in the 17.5C, what they said, works contract service when supplied for construction of an immovable property, except where it is an input service for further supply of works contract. So now, जैसे कि कल माय लर्नेड कोलीग ने रियल एस्टेट सेक्टर डिस्कस किया, रियल एस्टेट की टैक्सेबिलिटी के लिए उन्होंने एक सेपरेट एंट्री बनाई है विच इज इन द पैरा 5B, which is construction of a complex building, etc. And this works contract is separately created an entry in the section in section 2119 and section para 6 of the schedule 2. So in the service tax regime also there is a two separate treatment for the works contract and for the builders who are constructing the complex and building. But in the VAT regime, there is no difference. And in fact, the Supreme Court in the L&T judgment and K. Raheja has held that the building which the builders construct is a works contract service. So very strangely, in a GST regime, we have seen there are 2-3 audit observation, or in fact, there are one show cause notice also, in which the department has denied the credit to the builder, very strangely, to a builder by saying that you are not a works, you are not providing a works contract service, you are providing a service under para 5B, therefore you are not eligible to credit. Although it is no longer will remain, मतलब ऐसे नहीं रहेगी, but मैं just एक sharing कर रहा हूँ कि ऐसे भी ऑफिसर्स हैं जिन्होंने बिल्डर्स को क्रेडिट डिनाई कर दिया ऑन दिस ग्राउंड कि आपकी सर्विस वर्क्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट सर्विस नहीं है. When the GST was introduced, we have also filed representation to clarify this aspect, but it is not clarified. But yes, the builders are clearly eligible, and if any builder receives such type of notices, that can be easily handled, and there is no worry to इस केस में ज्यादा कोई वरी की बात नहीं है, बिकॉज हमारे जो अमाउंट्स होते हैं क्रेडिट के वो ह्यूज होते हैं. एक छोटे से पॉइंट के अंदर दैट डिमांड कैन टर्न इनटू बी ह्यूज अमाउंट, बट द पॉइंट इज वेरी स्मॉल. And the clarification is that the builders also eligible and not included in this exclusion. Now come to the explanation which is given in this. Why I'm reading this explanation for the telecommunication tower specially. As we read in the 17.5C and D, there is one exclusion within the bracket other than plant and machinery. So if there is a works contract which is for the plant and machinery, then you are eligible for the credit. Now they have plant and machinery को उन्होंने define करा because इस केस में credit eligible है. So they said the plant and machinery means apparatus, equipment and machinery fixed to the earth by foundation or structural support that are used for making outward supply of goods or services or both, and includes such foundation and structural supports, but excludes land building or any other civil structure, telecommunication towers and the pipelines laid down. So उन्होंने exclusion के अंदर exclusion बना दिया, मतलब प्लांट एंड मशीनरी इमूवेबल नहीं माना जाएगा, लेकिन टेलीकम्युनिकेशन टावर प्लांट एंड मशीनरी नहीं माना जाएगा. thereby means they want to say that telecommunication टावर के ऊपर क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा. टेलीकम्युनिकेशन टावर पे पहुंचने से पहले मैं एक और एग्जांपल शेयर कर लेता हूं. देयर इज अ वन वेयर हाउस फॉर स्टोरिंग द गुड्स. उस वेयर हाउस के अंदर मैंने फायर फाइटिंग का पूरा इंस्टॉलेशन कराया. एज एन मैंडेट मुझे फायर फाइटिंग की इंस्टॉलेशन करानी है पूरी. सो फायर फाइटिंग की अगर आप इंस्टॉलेशन देखें तो उसमें वो ऑल टुगेदर इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी का नेचर होता है. उसमें डिगिंग की जाती है टैंक की, उसमें सारे पाइप्स बिछाए जाते हैं पूरी फैक्ट्री में अंडरग्राउंड, और फिर सारे जो ऑफिसर्स के सीट्स के ऊपर सब जगह वो लगाए जाते हैं इक्विपमेंट, ताकि फायर के केस में वहां पर वाटर आ सके. तो ऑल दिस स्ट्रक्चर इज in the nature of immovable property. Now whether it is a plant and machinery or not, so we have examined that yes, it will fall within the definition of plant and machinery because it is an upper equipment. It is an equipment which is fixed to earth by foundation and structural support. But now they have excluded that land building or any other civil structure. So whether that civil structure will cover that firefighting equipment, so my answer is no, because we have to read this any other civil structure with the word land and building. So land building or the similar civil structures will not be like warehouse or any other things, but the firefighting installation will definitely cover under the plant and machinery and will not be excluded from the and will not be covered in the 17.5C and D. Now come to the telecommunication tower. They said that telecommunication tower will not be considered as plant and machinery, therefore no credit will be allowed. But despite the against judgment of the Honorable Bombay High Court, the Delhi High Court in the case of Vodafone has done has tested this telecommunication tower on a permanency test by relying on the judgment of the solid and correct engineers, which we have discussed recently. So they said that in the what was the matter is कि वोडाफोन ने वहां पर लीज होल्ड लैंड लिया था और वो लीज होल्ड लैंड के ऊपर टावर्स कंस्ट्रक्ट करे उन्होंने. सो द कोर्ट हैज सेड कि वी हैव टू अप्लाई द परमानेंसी टेस्ट, एंड इन दिस केस these telecommunication tower are not permanent, have never intended to be installed permanently. So therefore they said that telecommunications tower is not an immovable property at all, and they held the telecommunication towers to be a movable property. Now, what's the impact in the GST? There is a credit denied on immovable property, but उस immovable property में उन्होंने plant and machinery exclude करा, और उस plant and machinery से मैं telecommunication exclude कर दिया. So thereby means they do not want to exclude telecommunication tower from the definition of immovable property for denying the credit. But since the court held that it's not a immovable property and it's a movable property, therefore it will not covered within the within the ambit of 17(5)(c) and D at all, and therefore the telecommunication companies can easily claim the credit of telecommunication towers. Now, coming to a point, although it is not directly relatable to a works contract, but it is relatable to the problems which are arising in the real estate sector, that as my learned colleague also maybe discussed in a yesterday's session, that in a new tax regime, the developers are not allowed to avail the credit and they are required to pay tax at the rate of 5%. So now, since we cannot avail the credit, and second, there is a condition that the output tax is also required to be paid in cash only. Now let's examine the provisions very carefully. The section 16 says every registered person shall subject to such conditions and restrictions as may be prescribed. So let's stop here only. It says every registered person subject to such conditions and restriction as may be prescribed. So there are two things. First of all, so there will be a condition and restriction, and further that has to be prescribed. And what the meaning of prescribed is given under section 2. Prescribed means prescribed by rules, and the manner specified in section 49. 49 is for the utilization of the credit, be entitled to take credit of the tax charge on any supply of goods or services or both to him which are used or intended to be used in the course or furtherance of his business, and the said amount shall be credited to the electronic cash ledger. So section 16 nowhere restricts that any of the person who is receiving, any registered person who is receiving his goods and services for his course or furtherance of business is allowed to take the credit. What are the exceptions? The exceptions are given only and only in section 17(5), and there is no other rule or section which restricts the credit. So as we just discussed, that these are 17(5)(c) and D which are excluding, but there is no exclusion, which I discussed the issue that many few officer has considered not to be a works contract, but yes, it will cover within this 17 works contract में आएगा, builders आएंगे और 17(5)(c) and D उनके ऊपर नहीं लगेगा. So basically ना तो credit restrict है और section 16 allow करता है. Now come to the notification which has restricted the credit. So what the notification said, that provided that central tax at the rate of specified in column shall be paid in by cash, and provided also that credit of input tax charge on goods and services used in supplying the services has not been taken except to the extent as prescribed in annexure 1. So what I want to emphasize in that there is a credit which is allowed. There is no restriction in the statute. There is no restriction by way of rules. But what they have done through a rate notification, they have restricted your credit. So since they have restricted your credit through a rate notification, it can be challenged on the ground that once a statute does not restrict this credit, how a notification can restrict the credit? So what should be the way forward? It's okay, because it is not good to avail the credit and utilize the credit, because department in like past cases what they do, वो वहां पर आपका क्रेडिट भी निर्णय कर सकते हैं और वो आपका आउटपुट टैक्स हायर रेट पे लगा सकते हैं. ओके, बट इस केस में व्हाट वी शुड डू, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल तो वी शुड चैलेंज दिस नोटिफिकेशन एंड उस आईटीसी को लेकर के हम रिवर्स कर दें इमीडिएटली, क्योंकि 5% रेट के साथ कंडीशन एसोसिएटेड है, तो वहां पर टैक्स रेट के ऊपर इशू आ सकता है कंप्लायंस पर्पस के लिए. तो आप इसको आईटीसी का टाइम पीरियड लैप्स ना हो जाए, इसलिए डेवलपर्स कैन टेक द क्रेडिट एंड रिवर्स इट, एंड अगर नोटिफिकेशन क्रैश हो जाती है, then that ITC can be availed later, and then it become available and it become a rich cash to the builders. So similarly, in the we have challenged this in a Indian Catering Association case, in the case of catering services. Similar thing, what they have done in the catering cases, they have restrict the credit by notification, by saying that 5% tax is payable on catering and railway catering, and the credit shall not be allowed. So we have challenged it in Indian Catering Association case. And what, since we are not eligible to avail the credit, and there is one another issue involved, so what the court has directed to the supplier of the Indian Catering Association not to charge, only charge 50% tax, and 50% tax you will not charge, so that this, until this issue will be decided. So my point here is very clear, हमारे को क्रेडिट अलाउड नहीं है, बट वो क्रेडिट की जो रिस्ट्रिक्शन है वो बियॉन्ड स्टैट्यूट है. Since it is beyond the act and there is no restriction in the rules as well, we can challenge this notification. In the meanwhile, we can avail the ITC and reverse it. And in case this notification in near future get quashed, which is to some extent can be expected from the courts. So in that scenario, my ITC will not become time barred because of lapse of time, and then I can easily avail those credit, and it become cash component for me at later stage. Now let's discuss the tax rate entries of this works contract. Hello.
सर
जी,
कुछ क्वेरीज लेने अभी तक की?
अभी तक की क्वेरीज लेनी है 10-15 मिनट में
क्वेरीज डिस्कस.
हाँ, लास्ट में
ले
लेते हैं करण जी, एक साथ ले लेते हैं.
ठीक.
Now I'm not going to discuss this tax rate entry merely, but I'm going to discuss the main features of these tax rate entries. So सबसे पहले solar industry की एक entry है which says what happened in the solar power plant industry. The solar power plants equipments are subject to 5% tax on as in goods. So if a contractor who is, let's say, Tata Solar Power Company is engaged in installation of solar power plants in the market, so when the Tata Power purchase these plants from the market, from the manufacturer of these solar devices, they purchase it at a 5% rate. But what happened, there is a, because of the tax rate, there is a divergent view in the industry also, and there is a huge loss to these type of industry, that once they installed it, by the definition of works contract, it become immovable property, and therefore it was taxable to 18%. So their input is at 5%, their output is taxed 18%, and there is a huge gap of 13%. And secondly, what happened, that is case में generally 90 to 95%, as per the industry, 90 to 95% उनका material होता है, and there is only 5% element involved of installation only. And in some cases, even the industry said that no, our case is not immovable property, it can be just affixed by mere screw, by tightening a screw. So it can be by nut and bolts, it can be affixed, and so therefore it's not immovable property, and it's a movable, and since there is a major component of material, so we will charge only 5%. So there are two problem arises. First is there is a different practice in the industry. One person is charging 5%, not considering immovable, and one is considering immovable and charging 18%. Second issue, since majority of the part is 5% and outward is also 5%, why the government is charging 18%? Then where is the question of giving the benefit to such type of industry? So in this case, very interestingly, what they have done, although they have treated it as a works contract, as a service, they still keep it as a works contract. But what they have done, they have said that, okay, in this case, we will assume that in a works contract, there is a 70% portion of material which is subject to the tax rate given in the goods entry, which is here, which is a 5%, and the 30% shall be considered to be service and subject to 18%. So to some extent they have solved this problem of the industry, but still there is a issue. As I said, there is a 85 to 90% material, so still the 15% to 20% component is again going to a higher tax rate, because their 90% is material which is should be subject to 5%, but 30% considering service portion, there is some loss. So in this case, we will now further going to discuss a concept of separate contracts. So now a question may arise that whether in the GST regime as well, two separate contracts are possible, and if there are two separate contracts, then whether it will be covered under the works contract or not. So let's say solar industry will enter into a contract for material, supply material having a value of 90% and service portion having a value of 10%. I'm not talking at all for malpractices and tax evasion. I'm saying the actual scenario where the material is 90% and service is 10%. In actual cases, can we split the contract? So contract can be split as also held by the larger bench in Gannon Dunkery 1, in a L&T judgment, and in the Con Elevator. What they have concluded in these cases that yes, there are two separate contracts are possible. So yes, we can enter into a two contracts. But now question come to us whether if we enter into a two contract, whether it's still covered under the composite contract and will be considered as works contract. Then in this case, there are separate, there are things which has to be seen, like if we have a cross fall breach clause or cross performance, like if you will not supply the material, then you will also not get the money for the supply of service. If you will not supply the material properly, then you cannot execute the service part. If you not execute the service part properly, then you will also not get the value of material. In such cases, the court it can be said that there is a only single contract in the form of two piece of documents. So therefore, it can be considered to be a works contract. But if there is a no cross for breach clause, or there is no cross performance, and if there is a, or especially when there are two entities for let's say in some cases you power plant कोई और दे रहा है और उसको install और कोई कर रहा है. So yes, in this case, and there is no fall breach contract clauses in that, so it can be entered separately, and it can be considered outside from the ambit of immovable property. So this is one aspect which can be think upon by the industry, especially in case of solar, which there is a problem of a huge quantum of material at a lower rate. Now, if we discuss about the entry which is for the road construction, why I am discussing this entry have a lower rate of 12%. So first thing is that it is not a recipient specific entry. So any person, either it a contractor or it a subcontractor who is constructing a road, for anyone, for a developer also, for a government also, if you are constructing a road, then you are liable to pay only this reduced rate of 12%. But there is a condition that road for use by general public. Ab general public ka matlab, what we have to take in that road can be utilized by a general public. So what we mean by general public, like agar even a bigger society, there is a ways which are to be allowed to general public, that also get covered in this case. But if there is a private road of a person, like in a factory, if in a factory you are constructing a road, then it will not covered in this entry and you are subject to 18% rate. But yes, if those roads have a access for the general public, then you can pay tax at the rate of 12%. and it is not subject to कि ये contractor दे रहा है या subcontractor दे रहा है. Similarly, as I discussed for roads, ये वाली एंट्री के ऊपर भी वो रिस्ट्रिक्शंस नहीं है कि वो रिसिपेंट कौन है या वो सब कॉन्ट्रैक्टर के लिए भी अवेलेबल है. बट मैं यहाँ एक पॉइंट जो जर्नली लिटिगेशन का पार्ट रहा है सर्विस टैक्स रिजीम में, और there are number of show cause notices which are given in the service tax regime on the railways. So works contract service which are pertaining to railways, the language is pertaining to railways, are subject to lower rate of tax at the rate of 12%. Then what we mean by work done for railways, pertaining to railways? So if we are doing work for Indian Railways, like we are constructing a shed for them for platform, or we are doing a maintenance and repair of railway tracks, because it's a works contract, it's a maintenance of an immovable property, then yes, it will covered under this definition. But if we talk about the pure service, like आपने वहां पर क्लीनिंग सर्विस ले ली या आप खाली प्रोजेक्ट को मैनेज कर रहे हैं, तो प्योर सर्विसेज के अंदर कवर नहीं होगी. वी हैव टू लुक आफ्टर द अदर एंट्रीज, बट प्योर सर्विसेज एंट्री के अंदर कवर नहीं है. Then installation of electric substation, then also included in this. Now service by subcontractor, I discussed that this is not a recipient specific or not a provider specific. So if the subcontractor is providing services to the main contractor for the work pertaining to railways, it will be included in this case. Now what is the issue of litigation involved in this case is the private railway sidings. So what the department took a view from this, that it is only for the Indian Railways. They mean it by railways means Indian Railways, not the private sidings. So railways, if we look the definition of railways, मतलब rail का रास्ता. So in the Afcon Infrastructure Limited and in the SMS Infrastructure Limited, the court said that the private sidings also covered in this entry वर्क्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पर्टेनिंग टू रेलवेज. और जीएसटी रिजीम के अंदर भी एक एडवांस रूलिंग आई है राइट्स लिमिटेड की, जिसमें उन्होंने ये हेल्ड किया है कि प्राइवेट साइडिंग्स, इफ यू आर कंस्ट्रक्टिंग अ प्राइवेट रेलवे साइडिंग्स फॉर अ प्राइवेट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, दैट इट आल्सो कवर्ड विद इन द रिड्यूस्ड रेट ऑफ टैक्स एट द रेट ऑफ 12%. So this point basically I want to specifically highlight in this case. Now come to a entry 3.6, which talks about the services provided to a specific organizations, like services provided to central government, state government, union territory or a governmental authority. So इसके अंदर उन्होंने जो government entity की definition दी है, what they have given definition, government entity means an authority or a board or any other body, corporation set up by an act of parliament or state legislation. Then they have put a semicolon here and then said or established by a government, comma, with 90% or more participation. अब a issue arise that if a body set up by an act of parliament but is not holding a 90% shareholding participation by a government, then whether that will cover under this or not. Like a C Institute, which is set up by an act of parliament but the 90% control is not of government, so whether it will fall under government entity or not. So if we see the case of Shapurji Palunji, the same definition is given under the service tax regime, which they have said that clause 1 is followed by semicolon and the word or. Therefore the 90% condition is only attached with the point number 2, which is established by a government, and not with the point number 1. So therefore if an organization set up by an act of parliament, so then we are not required to see the 90% participation to held to be to a government entity. So what are the further features of this? That it's a recipient specific entry. So if it is a recipient specific entry, then what about the subcontractor? Subcontractors are covered under entry 3.9. Pure services are not covered under this. So these are the features of this. Now another entry is there is a 5% rate of a works contract, जिसमें earthwork is 75%. So earthwork 75% है कि नहीं? Generally, we tax people will not be understand, or we professionals as in financial professional, chartered accountants or advocates will not be able to identify the technical feature whether this works involved a 75% earthwork or not. So what my suggestion and view is that in this case we ideally should take a confirmation from an engineer, because such type of hello हेलो
हेलो
करण जी, आवाज आ रही है?
आ रही
जी
है?
सर, आवाज आ रही है आपकी।
ओके ओके. So in such type of cases, we should take assistance of a technical person, either from of the works contractor itself, because they have the people. Now if we discuss, this is the bus 2 or 3 issues remain left. I'm just discussing it very quickly. So another point is inverted duty structure. अभी हमने जो डिस्कस किए रेट्स, वहां पर रिड्यूस रेट ऑफ टैक्स था लाइक 5% और 12%. बट जनरली अगर हम देखें तो कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स का जो इनपुट है वो सब्जेक्ट टू 18% और 28% है. So it results into accumulation of credit, and it is a inverted duty structure. Now the notification number 50/2017 has restricted the refund of, in case of inverted duty structure, if the service falls within the para 5B of schedule 2. Now as I discussed, the department is now interpreted the 5B entry and 6 in accordance to which fit to them only. The entry 5B schedule 2 is specifically meant for the complexes building which generally developer construct, but it is not covering the situation like the works contractor who is doing an infrastructure project, which are falling at the definition of works contract. So recently we found that department has started to reject the refund of inverted duty structure of the contractor in case of inverted duty structure by applying the notification number 15/2017. But in our view, and we are also litigating this issue, that it should not be covered under this notification number 15/2017, and the works contractor and the infrastructure contractors are eligible for the refund of their inverted duty structure. Now very interesting issue, that in the works contract industry, what happened that sometimes there are few gaps between the acceptance of the bills by the contractee, like contractor has done some extra work और कॉन्ट्रैक्टर ने कुछ ज्यादा दिन लगाने पड़ गए बिकॉज कॉन्ट्रैक्टी ने उसको साइट इजीली अवेलेबल नहीं कराई थी या टाइम पे अवेलेबल नहीं कराई थी, तो उसकी वजह से एक्स्ट्रा मैन पावर कॉस्ट, एक्स्ट्रा मटेरियल कॉस्ट, और लेट से एक उसको बाउंड्री लेवल एक्सपैंड करना पड़ गया, कुछ भी एग्जांपल हो सकता है इसका. सो जनरली व्हाट दे डू, दे अप्लाई, दे क्लेम द एक्स्ट्रा बिल एंड वो फिर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट रिजेक्ट कर देता है, और देन अल्टीमेटली इट विल गो फॉर द आर्बिट्रेशन. सो लेट्स से काम जो 2010 में हो गया था, और ऐसा होता है, अभी तो हमारे पास 20-20 साल पुराने आर्बिट्रेशन अवार्ड आज रिसीव हो रहे हैं, तो लेट्स से वो 2010 के अंदर आर्बिट्रेशन अवार्ड, आर्बिट्रेशन में गया केस, काम खत्म हो गया 2010 के अंदर, आज पैसा आया 2020 में जब जीएसटी आ चुका है, तो वो जो मनी आया आपके पास, क्या वो टैक्सेबल है? सो देयर आर few things which we have to look. First of all, GST is applicable on supply which is supplied after 1st July 2017. Constitutionally also, the GST is levied from 1st July 2017. So therefore, that money which you are receiving only money for the supply which happened before 1st July. Secondly, taxable event is happened before 1st/7/2017. Third, the transitional provision itself of the GST provides that if the taxable event has happened in the previous regime, then GST would not be leviable in this case. But yes, case to case, one thing is to look into this, that there is one section called one section 42(2)(a), which is talk about the upward revision and downward revision of the prices. So they say if there is a upward provision of prices, upward revision of prices, then GST is leviable on the differential amount. So therefore you have to look that the upward revision of the prices which is done, work done before GST regime and accepted today, whether it will fall under section 142(a) or not. It is a subjective matter depending on the facts. But in all other normal scenarios, most of the claims are related to the work done prior to 1st July. Then there is no tax on receipt of arbitration award. But here one point I want to highlight, that in this case we have to look whether we have discharged the appropriate liability in the previous tax regime or not, because sometime the contractors charge it, but sometime it may happen that contractor has not charged the appropriate tax in the previous regime also. Then there would no issue from the GST perspective, but there could be a issue from the previous regime perspective also. Now come to the last topic, which is registration connected with the ITC point. The section 22(1) says that every supplier is liable to be registered in the state from where he makes a taxable supply. And location of supply means from a place of business and location of such fixed establishment. And fixed establishment is defined a place which is characteristic by a sufficient degree of permanence and suitable structure in terms of the human and technical resources. So let us understand by one example. I am a contractor having a place of business in Delhi. मुझे नोएडा का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट मिल गया. सो वट या तो जनरली मैं वो काम सब कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर दूंगा, तो मेरी प्रेजेंस जरूरी नहीं है नोएडा के अंदर, या फिर मैं दिल्ली में रह के उस काम को मैनेज कर सकता हूं और मेरा वहां पर कोई साइट ऑफिस नहीं है, विच कैन बी फॉर 3 or 6 months. मेरा वहां कोई साइट ऑफिस नहीं है, सो आई कैन मैनेज दोज वर्क फ्रॉम हेयर दिल्ली इटसेल्फ. बट वहां प्रॉब्लम क्या आएगा हम मेरे को, क्योंकि वर्क्स इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी का प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई वहां होता है जहां इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी लोकेटेड है. सो प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई वहां होने के कारण टैक्स जो चार्ज होगा वो यूपी के अकॉर्डिंग होगा. अब क्वेश्चन आता है कि मैं क्या क्रेडिट ले सकता हूं कि नहीं ले सकता हूं. पहले मैं डिपार्टमेंट की व्यू की बात करता हूं. तो एज पर द डिपार्टमेंट, अगर आपका प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई नोएडा है यानी कि यूपी है और आपका रजिस्ट्रेशन दिल्ली में है, तो आप उस यूपी वाले क्रेडिट को नहीं ले सकते जिसका प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई यूपी है. बट इन माय व्यू, which I have analyzed by seeing the provision of input tax credit and the state tax in the CGST Act, if we read it together, we can conclude that even if the contractor, the supplier of the contractor has charged the tax by mentioning the place of supply as UP, the contractor being registered in Delhi can easily avail the credit of central tax and the state tax. And further, is respect to central tax, there is no denial at all in the central tax. One may argue from the department side that in respect of state tax, because state tax state particular state का था, आप credit नहीं ले सकते हो. Although हमने इसकी interpretation करके ये निकाला है कि yes, central tax itself allowing the credit, but in respect to central tax or in respect to IGST, there is no restriction at all that किसी और state का central tax having a place of supply different state cannot be availed. So, but to avoid any such type of complication and litigation, which definitely will come, it is better to take registration in the state where the project is going on, so that you can easily avail the credit and can utilize that credit. And if in any other cases you are not able to take the registration, then you can claim that credit and you can intimate to the department your interpretation. So Karan ji, that's my presentation.
सर इसी में ये लास्ट जो भी चल रहा था अभी अपना टॉपिक, इसमें एक क्वेरी, मेरी आवाज क्लियर है?
यस।
तो इसमें जैसे डिपार्टमेंट का और भी क्या रहता है, यानी कि प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई जो है वर्क कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में, सपोज आई एम रजिस्टर्ड इन दिल्ली एंड परफॉर्मिंग ए वर्क कॉन्ट्रैक्ट इन नोएडा, तो जो मेरे मटेरियल्स हैं वो सारे यूज तो नोएडा में होंगे। तो
यस।
बेसिकली जो जीएसटी का मोटिव है कि इट्स डेस्टिनेशन बेस्ड टैक्स, तो सारी मेरी जो गुड्स हैं जो मैं मटेरियल यूज कर रहा हूँ, दे आर फ्लोइंग टू नोएडा, तो अल्टीमेटली कलेक्शन नोएडा को मिलना चाहिए। तो अगर मैं जिस पार्टी के लिए कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर रहा हूँ वो पार्टी नोएडा बेस्ड है या यूपी बेस्ड है, तब तो वो टैक्स फ्लो कर गया वहां पे। लेकिन अगर वो आउट ऑफ यूपी है, इन दैट केस आई थिंक इट विल मेक सम लिटिगेशन।
नहीं, सम लिटिगेशन इज अ डेफिनेट लिटिगेशन, बिकॉज अगर आप एफएक्यू और सर एफएक्यू देखें अगर डिपार्टमेंट के, तो उसने स्पेसिफिकली क्वेश्चन डील किया है और क्रेडिट डिनाई किया है। बट सर मैं आपको अगर सेंट्रल सीजीएसटी और आईजीएसटी की बात करूं, तो सेंट्रल लॉ तो सेंट्रल लॉ है, एंड अगर हम सीमलेस फ्लो ऑफ क्रेडिट की बात करें तो सेंट्रल लॉ में कहीं पर कोई रिस्ट्रिक्शन नहीं है और आईजीएसटी में भी कोई रिस्ट्रिक्शन नहीं है। बचता मेरा तो इसके विनिंग चांसेस ज्यादा हैं सेंट्रल और आईजीएसटी के। अगर अब मैं एसजीएसटी पार्ट पे आ जाता हूं, तो आपको मैं ये मेरे 5 बुलेट्स हैं, अगर आप इसको ध्यान से पढ़ना आप, क्योंकि यहाँ तो बुलेट पॉइंट पे हाईलाइटेड है। अगर आप इनपुट टैक्स की डेफिनेशन देखेंगे सीजीएसटी एक्ट के अंदर, तो वो बोलता है सेंट्रल टैक्स, स्टेट टैक्स, इंटीग्रेटेड टैक्स, यूनियन टेरिटरी टैक्स। फिर आप इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट की डेफिनेशन देखिए, वो बोलता है क्रेडिट ऑफ इनपुट टैक्स। फिर आप स्टेट टैक्स की डेफिनेशन सीजीएसटी में दी हुई है, वेरी इंटरेस्टिंगली दे से टैक्स लेवाइड अंडर एनी स्टेट गुड्स एंड सर्विस टैक्स एक्ट। तो अगर आप देखो तो आपके इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट की डेफिनेशन में स्टेट टैक्स भी आ रहा है जो किसी और स्टेट ने लगाया है। तो आप क्या कर सकते हैं, तो इनपुट टैक्स वुड आल्सो इंक्लूड द क्रेडिट ऑफ एनी स्टेट। और अगर आप सेक्शन 16 देखेंगे, तो सेक्शन 16 बोलता है आपको किसका क्रेडिट अलाउड है, क्रेडिट ऑफ इनपुट टैक्स चार्ज ऑन योर इनपुट एंड इनपुट सर्विसेज। तो आप इसको क्लोजली पढ़ेंगे तो आपका स्टेट टैक्स का क्रेडिट भी कहीं ना कहीं सेंट्रल लॉ अलाउ कर रहा है। बट यस, हो सकता है सम कोर्ट्स विल नॉट डाइजेस्ट दिस कॉन्सेप्ट इन द एसजीएसटी, although literally you can take, but in respect to CGST and IGST there are very good chances to win this point that there is no restriction in central and IGST law.
करण जी, पवन जी, मैं इसमें एक चीज और ऐड करूंगा। बेसिकली जैसे हमने डिस्कस किया कि वर्क कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के केस में वेयर द लोकेशन ऑफ साइट इज देयर इज नो नीड टू गेट द रजिस्ट्रेशन सिंस इट इज इन टेम्परेरी नेचर एंड परमानेंट फिक्स्ड एस्टेब्लिशमेंट में फॉल नहीं करता।
नो नो अंकित जी, मैंने ऐसा नहीं कहा। अगर आपका साइट ऑफिस है जो सम टू एक्सटेंड लेट से 3 महीने या 6 महीने के लिए वो चलता है, फिर तो आपको लेना पड़ेगा। बट हाँ, देयर इज एडवांस रूलिंग आ गई है जिसमें उसने मना कर दिया। एडवांस रूलिंग है जिसमें एडवांस रूलिंग ने मना किया कि आपको रजिस्ट्रेशन लेने की जरूरत नहीं है। बट फिक्स एस्टेब्लिशमेंट की डेफिनेशन अगर आप देखें तो वो बोलती है
परमानेंस डिग्री ऑफ
नहीं, पर डिग्री ऑफ परमानेंस एंड सूटेबल स्ट्रक्चर इन टर्म्स ऑफ ह्यूमन एंड टेक्निकल रिसोर्सेज टू सप्लाई सर्विसेज और रिसीव। तो अगर आप साइट ऑफिस देखें, जनरली जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट 6-6 महीने चलते हैं, तो आपका साइट ऑफिस इसके अंदर आ जाएगा, मेरा ये व्यू है। लेकिन हाँ, आप जो बोल रहे हैं वो एडवांस रूलिंग ने बोल दिया है कर्नाटका की, और कर्नाटका जहां पर सारे रिवर्स ऑर्डर आ रहे हैं, एक ऐसा अनोखा ऑर्डर आया है जहां पर मतलब कर्नाटका डिफरेंट व्यू में चलता है। हमने बोला आना चाहिए तो वो बोलते हैं नहीं आना चाहिए, नहीं जरूरत है।
मैं इसीलिए कह रहा हूँ पवन सर कि बेसिकली जो साइट के प्लेस पे अगर हमने रजिस्ट्रेशन ले लिया तो जो आईटीसी वाली प्रॉब्लम है वो तो आएगी नहीं ना फिर उस
हाँ,
केस।
तो आई कंक्लूडेड दैट, आई आल्सो सेड दैट टू
I'm
अवॉइड
saying
दिस
that point of
प्रॉब्लम
view.
एट ऑल।
Yeah.
बट नहीं, बट आपको मैं एक इसमें ना एग्जांपल देता हूँ मैं। आप इसका एक जो ये वाला इशू है वो फर्दर किसके लिए हो सकता है। लेट्स से एक बैंक है, बैंक ने लोन देना है, गुड़गांव में एक प्रॉपर्टी आपने खरीदनी है और दिल्ली में एक बैंक है, उसने लोन देना है। तो उसने बैंक ने सर्वेयर को अपॉइंट किया कि जाके वैल्यू असेस करके आओ। तो अब वो क्योंकि प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी से जो रिलेटेड है सर्विसेज हैं, उसका प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई भी उसकी लोकेशन है। तो जो आपका सर्वेयर है वो प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई गुड़गांव मेंशन करेगा और आपका बैंक दिल्ली में है, तो ये वहां पर और आपके लिए बेनिफिशियल है। बैंक तो गुड़गांव में जाके रजिस्ट्रेशन लेगा नहीं, तो वहां पर आप ये कॉन्सेप्ट अप्लाई कर सकते हैं।
बिल्कुल ठीक है सर, क्वेरीज ले लेते हैं।